This is a story of a young, passionate rapper Ronnie Smith, aka G Dollar Lil Ronnie. A normal day turns into a horrific day in the life of father and daughter. How? Let's see in detail. It was a Monday morning like any other, until the silence was shattered by the deafening sound of gunshots. The chaos erupted at Slappy's Express Car Wash in Forest Hill, Texas, a quiet suburb now forever marked by violence. The victims: G Dollar Lil Ronnie, the up-and-coming rapper known for his raw lyrics and heart, and his 5-year-old daughter innocently by his side. Welcome to our channel Dark Motives. For more such videos, do like, share, and subscribe our channel. Neighbors were the first to react, frozen in terror as the gunfire rang out. The scene unfolded in a blur of confusion. The shooters, 2 men dressed in jeans and gray sweaters, approached the victim's vehicle before unleashing a barrage of bullets. Witnesses described hearing at least 20 to 30 shots. Some said it was like a war zone. Others called it an execution. Whatever it was clear this wasn't just a random act of violence. As the suspects fled in a white 4-door Kia, the community was left in shock. Why would someone target G Dollar Lil Ronnie and his little girl? Was this a hit, an act of revenge, or was it simply a senseless killing? The unanswered questions loomed over the crime scene as police swarmed in, trying to piece together the grim puzzle. And for the family, friends, and fans, the tragic reality sank in. The music world had lost a rising star, and a child had lost her father. But the question still hung in the air. Why them? The sirens wailed as emergency responders rushed to the scene, but it was too late. First responders worked desperately to save the victims, performing life-saving measures on G Dollar Lil Ronnie and his daughter, but their efforts were in vain. Both were declared dead at the scene. The community was left in shock. What had started as a normal morning had ended in unspeakable tragedy. Neighbors, still trembling from the chaos, spoke about the sounds that haunted them. April Tarpley, who had been lying in bed, thought she had heard construction noises at first, but the deafening gunfire quickly proved otherwise. "It was a bunch of gunshots," she said. "I thought maybe it was them working on the street, but then I heard more. Too many." Becky Johnson, another neighbor, echoed her fear. "I heard 6 shots, then another 6. It was horrifying." As the authorities arrived, they confirmed the worst. G Dollar Lil Ronnie, the talented rapper with a promising career, and his young daughter were gone. The police quickly treated the incident as a targeted attack. But why? Who would want to harm a father and his child? G Dollar Lil Ronnie had no known enemies, and his aunt, Stella Houston, said he was a good kid who didn't bother anyone.
Bother nobody, he didn't target nobody, he was a family man, and he was going around rapping. Okay, why would you target him? And a baby, his baby?
But this wasn't just any shooting. It had the markings of something darker. The questions grew louder with each passing moment. Was it a case of mistaken identity, a personal vendetta? Or was this just an act of random violence? The investigation was just beginning, but the tragedy had already shaken the foundation of the community and left everyone asking, what could drive someone to commit such a brutal crime? G Dollar Lil Ronnie wasn't just another rapper. He was a force in the Dallas-Fort Worth music scene. Known for his raw, unapologetic lyrics, he captured the struggles and triumphs of everyday life. His music blended classic hip-hop with a fresh, modern sound that resonated with fans from all walks of life. He was a cornerstone of the best in Texas rap renaissance, a movement that put the DFW area on the map. His biggest hits, like Red Roses, were anthems in the region, and his album releases became instant classics. But it wasn't just his music that made him stand out. It was his connection to the culture. Lil Ronnie had a deep love for vinyl records, appreciating music's roots and the physical connection it provided. He collaborated with other local stars, like Go Yayo, and together they crafted music that captured the essence of Southern hip-hop. The news of his death left fans and fellow artists in shock. Tributes flooded social media, each one a testament to his legacy and the impact he had on the music world. He wasn't just a local hero. He was a symbol of success in a community that rarely gets the recognition it deserves. But despite his fame and positive reputation, a dark question lingered. Did Lil Ronnie have enemies? His sudden death left more than just a gap in the music world. It left a mystery that had yet to be solved. The shooting that claimed the lives of Lil Ronnie and his daughter was as violent as it was shocking. Witnesses described hearing 20 to 30 shots fired in rapid succession, each one ringing out with terrifying precision. The air was thick with the sound of gunfire as the shooters, two black males dressed in blue jeans and gray sweaters, approached the victim's vehicle without warning. It was clear this was no random act. They had a target. The shooters opened fire, unloading a hail of bullets into the car. The victims had no chance. After what seemed like an eternity, the gunman fled the scene, speeding away in a white four-door Kia. It was a brazen escape, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions. Who were they after? Why target Lil Ronnie and his young daughter? Police quickly labeled the attack as targeted, but they had few answers. The authorities were working quickly to piece together the details. One suspect had already been identified, with an active capital murder warrant issued. But the full story remained elusive. Was this a personal vendetta, or was there something more at play? The investigation was far from over, and with each new detail, the mystery grew deeper. The shooting had left the community in shock, and the hunt for justice was just beginning. Lil Ronnie's family and friends were left reeling, trying to make sense of the brutal shooting. His aunt, Stella Houston, spoke to the press, her voice filled with disbelief. "He was a good kid. He didn't bother anybody," she said. She couldn't understand why anyone would want to harm him. Ronnie had no known enemies, at least none that his family could recall. He had always kept to himself, focused on his music and his family. The news of his death didn't just shock his loved ones, it sent ripples through the community. How could something so violent happen to someone with no apparent foes? Was this really a case of mistaken identity? Was he in the wrong place at the wrong time? Or was there something darker hiding beneath the surface? As the investigation unfolded, questions began to swirl. Could this shooting have been a result of an old grudge, or was it truly just an unfortunate misunderstanding? Lil Ronnie's rise to fame had brought him into the spotlight, but did it also attract hidden dangers? The police were still piecing together the puzzle, but every lead only seemed to raise more doubts. The investigation was far from over, and with each new detail, the mystery deepened. As the investigation into Lil Ronnie's murder deepened, new questions began to emerge. Was this a targeted attack, or had the killers simply made a tragic mistake? The police began to dig into the backgrounds of the suspects, and some unsettling details started to surface. Could Ronnie have been involved in something darker than his public persona suggested? Was there a past beef, or were there gang ties that had remained hidden from the public? Rumors swirled. Some believed the shooting was the result of an old grudge or a dispute that had turned deadly. Others thought it was a random act of violence, a senseless killing with no real motive behind it. Friends and family were left to speculate, unable to make sense of the brutal crime. Was it a case of mistaken identity, or did the killers have a more personal reason for targeting him? The more the police uncovered, the more the mystery seemed to grow. With no clear answers and several theories in the air, the investigation became a tangled web of possibilities. Everyone had their own theory, but the truth was still elusive. Was Lil Ronnie caught up in something dangerous, or was this just a tragic error that had cost him everything? Only time would tell. As the investigation into Lil Ronnie's murder continued, the connection between his rise to fame and the brutal crime started to take shape. Ronnie's music wasn't just entertainment, it was a raw reflection of his life. His lyrics often explored themes of struggle, survival, and triumph, but they also hinted at the darker side of his world. could his music, which resonated deeply with fans, have also made him a target? One song, in particular, came under scrutiny. Could Fame Killuminati, a collaboration with rapper Go-Yayo. The song's title alone was enough to raise eyebrows. Was it just a catchy phrase, or did it allude to something deeper, something that could have stirred up danger? Some of his lyrics spoke of street life and the complexities of survival, and for some, those words might have hit too close to home. As the community grieved, a question started to form. Did becoming a local legend bring with it more threats than admiration? Ronnie's rise to stardom might have put him in the spotlight, but did it also attract dangerous attention? The more the investigators delved into his music and the world around him, the more it seemed possible that his fame had made him a target. But the real question still lingered. Who killed Lil Ronnie and his daughter, and why? The answers seemed just out of reach, but the clues kept pointing towards something darker and more complicated than anyone had imagined. The investigation into the deaths of Lil Ronnie and his daughter took a tense turn. Police had finally identified one of the suspects and issued an active capital murder warrant. But even with a lead, the case remained far from solved. The community, already reeling from the tragedy, felt an unsettling unease. How could something so violent happen to a man who had built his career on uplifting his community? As more details about the suspect began to surface, suspicions and fear began to grow. Who was behind the shooting? Was this part of a larger conspiracy, or had Lil Ronnie simply crossed the wrong person at the wrong time? The answers seemed just out of reach, and with every new piece of information, the mystery deepened. Local law enforcement, alongside the Texas Rangers, were working tirelessly to catch the killers. But with each passing day, the pressure mounted. Was justice within reach, or were there still more twists to come? The manhunt intensified as detectives followed every lead. But as the investigation unfolded, it became clear this story was far from over. What had driven someone to murder a beloved father and his innocent daughter? The truth was still out there, waiting to be uncovered.